get started on our finished mud. Now, we did the joints all last night, and we used a joint compound. Now that's, like I said before, it's got a little bit of glue, and it's going to shrink a little bit more than what your finished mud. Like the finished mud that I just use an all-purpose. I don't go with any of the fancy fine finishing muds. I find that the all-purpose is a little tougher, and you know, you're not going to make that mistake when you're sanding it out or anything like that. It's still easy to sand, and it's still going to leave you a beautiful finish when you're all said and done. But anyway, we want to start with our verticals again. Same process, horizontals. And on the vertical, because we got to go so wide on our mud here, I'm going to start with an 8-inch knife. Everything else I'm just going to use a 6-inch knife, because you don't want to try and do everything all in one shot. Everything's going to have that 3 coats, right? And the joint compound doesn't count as a coat. On the nail holes it does, but not on here. Well, let's get started. Now I'm using a hawk here, or pallet, whatever you want to call it. I find it a little easier when it comes to doing all my finish, because you go through so much mud so fast. And then you can kind of give it a little stir if there's a little bit of air bubbles or anything like that. Now the secret to drywall is not getting it perfect right off the bat. Remember, we're going to go 3 coats here, but the secret is not so much putting it on, it's taking it off. So basically I'm going to go on one side of my paper, and then I'm going to go on the other side. And I'm just going to put it kind of in the middle. That way it doesn't flow over the sides as much. Remember, it doesn't matter how you put it on, it's how you take it off. Okay, she's covered. So then what we want to do, start in the middle, and you got your knife on a fairly good, or just on a slight angle, go all the way through. Now on the sides, you want to put a little bit of pressure, like on this side I'd put a little bit of pressure on the left, just to bend it so that my knife isn't gouging into the middle. And I'm just going to feather that edge. And then feather this edge. And your last stroke, just kind of go down the middle, really light. I got a little line there, so we'll just do it again. And that is it. Got a little line there, so I'm just going to take that off. Remember, don't leave anything behind. Nothing, everything's feathered out as good as you can get it on the edges. That's as far as you want to go. And then the next time we're going to go out another 3 or 4 inches. And then another 3 or 4 inches the next time. That's beautiful. Now for the horizontals, I'm just using a 6-inch blade here. Now, one of the big mistakes that a lot of people do is they'll put too thin of a coat on. Well, that's okay, but then you can get some voids, and you don't want that. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you put it on fairly thick, because like I said, it's how you take it off that's the important part. We're only trying to fill this the cavity up because this is factory to factory. So we're not trying to save the world in one shot here. And just a matter of just go down the middle, feather your edges. And then just a real light one down the middle. Perfect. Now, if you got your blade a little too sharp, you're going to pull all the mud off. Don't do that. And then when you're coming into a spot that you've already done, you just go light and just slowly pick it up. That's 100% right there. And then once you're done that, then you can do your screws. Now every time you do this, you want to go past where you were before, just by a little bit. I know some people will take this and go all the way down. That's just more sanding. I just do my my screws one at a time. It's easy to do. Make sure you feather it. Leave nothing behind on the edges. Time to do the corners. Now, you can only do one side at a time because you'll be dragging your mud through the mud over here if you're trying to do both. I know they make a 90 knife. I've never ever used one. I just find that you just go ahead and just do one side at a time. I find my results are way, way better. So that's what we're going to do. So when you load your knife, I usually just load one side and then make sure you put it on so that you got good coverage. Once again, I'm just using my 6-inch knife here. And then what you want to do is just drag this edge of the knife up against the other side of the wall. Come straight down, feather it, take off your excess, and then just a real light touch. Now if you got something on the edge, you can just pull it off if you want. We're going to come around and we're going to clean all these edges up before we put on our next coat. Make sure your corners are nice and clean. Okay, so we got this corner done here. Now, you can continue over here if you want to on this wall, but I like to go on the ceiling and just kind of go opposite each time. So I'll do the same side on each one of my corners, and then probably just do the whole top, and then we'll come in and do the side when we do this one. Does that make any sense? I think it does. Okay, now get the scaffold set up. Now we're just got a couple more corners to do. Now, if you do a good job on your corners, you can do it in 2 coats of mud, and you're not bending. You don't have your blade real sharp. Keep your blade low so that you can build up a little bit of mud. You can do it in 2 coats, and that's a nice thing because I'm going to go with an 8-inch blade next time. But you've got to make sure that you're looking to see that you're not seeing any paper coming through. If you got paper coming through, then you have to put the 3 coats on. I'm going to try and do it in 2, and I think we can do it fairly easily here. Some guys claim they can do it in 1. No, I don't think so. Now I just did the top over here, and I did this side. And when I did the top, there's a little bit come off. You just put a little tiny roll on the end of your knife, and you finish it off. Just like that. Keeping your corners nice and clean, crisp, and they'll end up being perfect. All right, we're on day 2 of our finish mudding. Now, when you do your corners, you can always have that little tiny bit of overflow on the other side. I just take a sponge with a nice crisp sharp edge, and all you have to do is just kind of run down it. Don't do too much, just get it nice and flat. Or if there's not very much, like if you're tight in a corner like this, you can use a knife. It only takes a quick little swipe and be nice and clean. We're not going to sand any of our mud. The way I like to do it is I like to sand only once, and that's at the end. Now, every once in a while, if you got a really bad joint where you really want it to look good, you may end up having to do a rough sand on your wide ones, but everything else, I don't sand until the end. just the corners. So the same procedure kind of as your first coat, except we're going out a little further. I'm using my 12-inch blade on the horizontals here, or should I say the verticals. Now I start on the outside. Remember, make sure you get yourself a good coat. It's not how you put it on, it's how you take it off. Now start tight at the top. Keep your knife fairly low on the angle. And then just slowly drag it down. Put a little pressure on the right hand side when you're on the right hand side. And basically, when you're doing this, what you're gonna find, I don't know why I got some goobers in here, but if you do, pick them off. Throw a little bit of more mud on there and get it on the next one here. What you're going to find on a joint is it will take what it wants to take. If you're forcing it, you want it to go, put a lot of mud on there, you just got to be good with your knife. There are times when, let's say this is a pretty bad one, and I've really got to put a lot of mud on it. And a lot of it is just going very, very light with your knife and flattening it all out. But you got to really kind of be good with your knife if you're going to really throw a lot of mud in because you're filling. The pros call that a fill coat, and from what I'm seeing here, don't really have to worry about that because the joint seems to be pretty good. But there are times where, you'll have a joint, you're way out here like this, it pays to, put quite a bit of mud on, but you make that call yourself. Just got to be good with your knife. And if you're going along and it's not perfectly smooth and you want it nice and smooth, you can go across very lightly. And you can make that just absolutely beautiful. This is usually what we do on our final coat. So what I'm doing is actually putting a little bit more pressure on here, going along. That is really, really nice. I can tell just by mudding it, and when you have a little bit more experience, you'll be able to tell just by mudding that that's going to look good. Okay, it's time for the horizontals. Now, I'm just going to use my 8-inch blade here. 12-inch, we'll use that for the final coat. And every time you put a coat of mud on, it shrinks a little bit. So you think that it looks good, but you feel it, and you can feel a little bit of a dip. And there always seems to be a little high spot on just on the edge before, you know, the natural curl of the factory joint. So we're gonna have to go up here, but 3 coats for sure, even though you think you can do it in 2. All right, our horizontal joint here, it's going to hit our vertical. You go right over top of it. Well, we got all the horizontal and vertical joints done. All we got left is the corners. Now, we did this side yesterday, so all we have to do is this side. Same procedure. Just make sure that your anything that's left over from yesterday, you clean it up. Well, second coat's done on everything. Now all I have left to do is the screws. Now, when you're putting this mud on, a lot of people will do this. You're just scraping it all off. Make sure your blade is nice and low, and just feather it all out. Remember, leave nothing behind. When I say nothing behind, I mean nothing on the edges, because then you're going to have to sand it. Don't want to do that. That looks like a third coat on that one already.
Well, at the end of the day, I always wash my tools up. And I just find it gives you a nice fresh start for tomorrow, for the next day. Now the worst thing you can do is just drop that knife in the water and leave it. Because next morning when you come out, that's going to be all rusted. So, just give her a wash. And then dry it off. I usually just give her one of those.
Now I gotta do a little cleaning up here in the corner. Now what I got a little 3-inch blade here. It's got a bit of an angle on it, and it's really nice. And then you can just kind of scrape it. And then your corners turn out just perfect. Well, it's time to put our final coat on. So, technique is all the same, except we're just gonna go a little wider. And since my corner blends in with this, and I'm just going to do the whole thing all at one shot here. So we'll start in the corner and work our way out. Now, like I said, this was a 12-inch blade. It's only a 10-inch blade. You can use a 12-inch blade, but what I find is they're a little harder to work with, and I do just fine and dandy with this. Someday I would really like to learn how to use the trowel, but I don't do enough of this. I know those guys that you see, those pros, they can throw that mud down really fast with those big trowels. That'd be nice. Remember, get your mud on. Don't leave any thin spots. Right back. Gotta get some more mud. Now usually if you leave a line going straight down, means you got a little bit too much mud. Once you got your initial pass done, get it down here a little bit, then you just go lighter and lighter, and you wouldn't believe how nice your job's going to be. A little bit of pressure on that side. Opposite pressure. Looking good. Now what you can do is, this is pretty wide. If you wanted to, you could go this way and it'll help smooth it out just a little bit more. And you just go really, really light. Awesome. And don't worry if you get a little line. Sanding's gonna look after everything. So if you've done a real bad job of mudding, sanding is the equalizer. And amazing what you can do with a sander. So while I'm here, I'm just gonna finish off this lower corner. And I'm using my 8-inch blade. Like some people don't like to go that far with it. I find that I just get a really nice smooth finish with my 8-inch blade, because it's a lot more flexible than what the 6-inch is. If you got any lines, you just really lightly, just use a little bit more mud right there. Don't be afraid if you have to put a little bit of mud in there. When you come across, oh yeah, that's really good there. What you're gonna find is the farther you go, the straighter your wall is. Like the more mud that you put on, the easier it's going to be, because it's almost hard to describe that. You almost have to figure that one out for yourself. But when everything's crooked and you're building up, it's harder to smooth everything out without getting a line in it. But when it's flat, your knife's going to run along here, and it's not going to bother anything. It's just going to go like magic. It will. So on the final coat of mud, this is where you really want to take your time. Find your Zen moment. And it seems like the slower you go, the better it all turns out. Beautiful. A final coat.
You're gonna find that's the easiest one to put on. Okay, you want to make sure your corners are as crisp as you can get them. Just slide your knife up. Do a nice little pull. Looking good. Last day of mudding. Just have the other side of every one of my corners to do. And we're done. It's looking really, really good. Here's another tip for you there too. If you're just doing a small job and you don't want to fire up your mixer, you can just, that's the nice thing about having a hawk or a pallet, whatever you want to call this. You can just kind of mix it up a little bit on here. And it'll work just fine and dandy. I got mine mixed up, so we're good to go. Well, we got her done. Our mudding is all done. Now, the next step, everybody's favorite, sanding. And it is one of my favorite steps. I really, really enjoy sanding because then you get to see that, you know, all the labor that you just put in here, this is 5 days worth of work. We got taping and then 1 coat, 2 coats, 3 coats, but the corners take 4 days to do, 1 side each. So, it's been a big job, but it's really turned out. Now I'm going to give you a couple tips. Now, let's say you're doing a big joint like this and you're not happy with it. Maybe you got a little bit too much mud on there. You know, best thing to do, I try and get things done in 3 coats, but there's nothing wrong with 4 or even 5 coats if you have to. And you basically, if you're at the 3 coat stage, the best thing to do would be give it a light sand with some 80 grit and then put on another coat if you're not happy with the way it looks. And let's say you get a gouge in here, you know, let's say you run your knife in by accident or something like that. Those things can be repaired afterwards. After we get the primer on, that's when you can do the odd little repair, and it might be almost easier doing it then than it is now. And pinholes. Normally when you're doing a job like this, you got fresh drywall, pinholes aren't really that big of an issue unless you really put your mud on thick. And if you get pinholes, really easy to get if this was a painted wall. Don't try and fix those right now. We're going to fix those after we prime them. And once primer's on, you just give it a nice little light coat and done. Well, I'll let this dry up and tomorrow we can get sanding. Can't wait. Till next time, we'll see you tomorrow with the sander. Thanks for watching.